Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us here on Sproutly's channel. We're, of course, here once again with CEO Dr. Sen, and we're going to answer a lot of your guys' questions today. But first off, Doc, how are you doing?
I am doing very well. Thank you. Hope you're doing fine too.
I'm doing pretty fine myself. So let's hop in. We got a lot of interesting questions from you guys, and there was way more than we could answer in one video. So we're going to run through some of these here, and we'll get into other ones. If you guys want to reevaluate some of them, we'll answer some more later on. But let's kick it off, shall we? So, Doc, the first question is, does Sproutly have and operate from an established business plan? And is it available for people to see?
We have, as you know, as a small publicly traded company, there are significant limitations as to what is a business plan, what can be shared, how much details, and all of that. So yes, we do have a business plan, and our annual filings are probably the best place to assess that. Unfortunately, as you know, and all the investors know, that it is what happened, mostly what happened before.
Yeah.
Because again, making projections is always frowned upon. So yes, we do have a business plan. And to very simply summarize, been built on a technology platform. We believe our technology is going to cause a paradigm shift in the whole cannabis industry that has been going after what the illicit market did for 50 years. And that's THC isolate, THC distillate, CBD isolate, CBD distillate. Now there are a couple of terpenes, a couple of other cannabinoids, but at the end of the day, it's all still the same thing. Focus on a few different oils that come out of this plant and try and present them in different form factors. Well, that doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
So the technology that we have developed and licensed in from Infusion is something that is meant to create functional products.
Mhm.
Mother Nature did not give us cannabis to get high on. She did not give us hemp plants to cause or relieve inflammation. These are plants.
Yeah.
So, that's why we focused on whole plant. There's a tremendous advances that have been made in the hemp and cannabis plant genetics. And we want to bring it all and create novel functional products that address our lifestyle, which is no different from the entire food and beverage industry in the global marketplace. And I do believe that cannabis and hemp can participate in that. So our business plan is to pursue those kinds of unique products. We will be there. I clearly understand for the near term, we need to launch a few products, but that needs to do two things. First, unlike many of the products out there, and I'm not throwing a negative tune to anything, but many of the products right now, people are very critical about.
Yeah.
It doesn't taste good, doesn't do this, doesn't do that. I don't want to do that because, good fresh tasting beverages have been around. And the technology that we have developed, if just the first one, Kalo, which is the first whole hemp extract infused seltzer water, if that's any indication, it proves that you can actually make good tasting beverage that delivers the function of the whole plant.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
before you continue off too much from that, I think people are wondering, like, is there a schedule that they can see in terms of delivering these products or and product lines, or is it just like, hey, we have one, it's a public company, so the information will be released when it'll be released?
It's a little bit more of the latter, right? But at the same time, though, the nice thing is we release the material events. For example, we filed what's called NNCPs for each of the new product formulation, which basically is used to test out whether or not there will be any problems from the regulatory agency about these products. Now we know that there aren't because they have not been turned down. Health Canada has not made any negative comments. Can we give a precise date of launch of any product? The answer is no. It depends on a lot of stuff. It's, as all the investors know, the purchaser in each province is only one, the provincial board.
Yeah.
right? So it depends on their schedule. What else are they doing? Who do we talk to? What is the shipment schedule, et cetera, et cetera. And just to go back a little bit to what I was saying, we want to make sure when we send out a product that people will consume, it's something they will like and come back buy it again. So if we gave a schedule out tomorrow that on at about 3:30 p.m. on September 18th, we'll launch a product,
Yeah.
it just might not happen because all of a sudden on September 12th, when the shipment needs to go out, we found out, whoops, the color looks a little different. What does that mean? We don't like that, right? So I want to be very careful before we send out even the first lot, right?
Yeah.
So yes, we do have a general schedule. We are going to launch beverages and the first set of edibles, gummies, and maybe even chocolates this year. But I cannot say whether it's going to be October 13th and November 11th, 1 p.m. versus
Yeah.
3:30.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of variables at play here, and sticking to very concrete and strict schedules is usually just a path to failure. So I definitely understand what you mean there. And going with what you had said before about re-strategizing previously, can you tell us like a little bit more about the board's transformation? Talk about people that were lost or roles that you plan on filling.
Sure. So we were, as you all know, extremely focused on cultivation, flower creation, flower packaging, and sales. Now, as you all know, every single Canadian company's flower business has pretty much been a disaster.
Yeah.
So we started doing the transformation back toward the end of 2019. It probably was a little too late, but the fact of the matter is, in less than 6 weeks, the price of flour on a per gram basis went from like $5. We actually sold our very first lot of flowers at $5 a gram.
Mhm.
It went down to $1.50. It's just a huge transformation. Nobody was prepared for it. We, as a small company, weren't. So now to fast forward the clock, we eliminated basically the entire management team. And we also changed the structure of the board of directors because people who are just interested in the cannabis business and didn't necessarily quite either understand or I didn't think they would provide value to our go forward strategy, which is products, they left and we brought in new people. So I think we have a good, solid board now. Paul Marcelino, who's an independent director, he was the co-founder of Infusion Biosciences when I first started it. That goes back about 3 years.
Mhm.
So he's an independent director. He's knowledgeable about the technology. He knows what's going on in the US. So he can provide some very, very good input as to market dynamics, people perception, etc. Constant is a veteran beverage guy, comes from the alcohol industry. Then there is Craig and myself. Craig is a fantastic CFO. I have been around, yes, getting old, but I've been around in very much product, high quality manufacturing, and marketing of regulated products, right?
Mhm.
And that's what we're doing. We're actually in the business of developing and selling regulated products in the consumer products market. There are very few examples other than alcohol and tobacco, right?
Yeah.
So we're in a unique situation. Now, do we have a complete management team at this point? No, we don't. So we'll be bringing in somebody who will be I would call him executive vice president of product development management. So that it needs to be just like you asked, what is the schedule? That's the person who will need to talk to all of us and say, okay, I believe we can live by these. We can do all these. It's one thing to, oh, I'll launch 19 SKUs of products, unrealistic, right? So we'll need to fill that role. We are now getting more into production. We downsized the company literally down to nothing. There's a time back, I believe, in December of January of 2020 or December of 2019, when we did not have a quality assurance person. Our whole action was frozen because the previous people
Yeah.
left. The people we brought in needed to be approved by Health Canada. So we now have a solid quality team. We have a good person that's looking at the logistics of getting things in, getting things out. But as you know, we're bringing in complementary technologies like the CanaHive sort of edibles making technology. So we are going to be hiring a handful of experienced worker bees that'll
Yeah.
be making these products.
Yeah.
At a senior level, management level, we have brought in an individual that you have spoken to, Alan Brousseau, who comes from a very different industry, biometrics industry, right? But he also has had exposure to the cannabis field. Now he's a strategic guy. He has been there when his former company was put together and sold to another large multinational, right? And we need to be strategically positioned to be able to do transactions, bring in products, out license technologies, form partnerships, because we have a unique opportunity. Whatever we prove out in Canada can be immediately transferred to Europe. And I don't care who says what, Europe is a bigger market than the US.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point there when you start talking about other countries. So, how closely are you guys monitoring foreign country regs as potential business opportunities for entries into those markets? Is this like a continuously ongoing effort for you guys?
It is very much an ongoing effort, because of Mr. Marcelino, who is very well connected into Israel. At an earlier stage, we were looking at Israel because, as you know, they were one of the earliest ones to legalize cannabis, including talking about exporting. But as you know, Israel has been a complete disaster for the last several months since the pandemic started. So
Yeah.
yes, it's an ongoing process. We're looking at UK, some of the European Union members, because the nice thing about Europe is finally they have decided that there could be single sites for a number of member states,
Mhm.
which is far different from what we have done in the US, which is pretty much idiotic. Every state has its own regulation.
Yeah.
It cannot transfer anything, right? So to me, Europe makes tremendous amount of sense, and that's why we keep track of them. We're talking to groups that could be prospective partners that are either, I would not say influential over, but connected to the regulatory authorities in the different parts. So it is an ongoing process. At the same time, I want to make sure we have true, successful, consumer-liked product that we have launched. And
Yeah.
that's what Canada is all about. It's a nice market. It's not a gigantic market, so it's manageable. And if we can prove out things, figure out what will happen, exporting from Canada is not going to be difficult. At the same time, though, we want to do this through partnerships. Coming from the biotechnology industry, one thing I did learn, every single successful company had major pharma company partnerships.
Yeah.
What most people don't remember is Genentech licensed out its first two products, right? So, I mean, I wouldn't mind being able to be a second Genentech for cannabis, not that
Yeah.
we're going to be. So partnership, I think, is going to be very critical. And that's why we're monitoring not just the regulations as we understand it of Europe, but people who are there on the ground. What are they telling us? So yes, we are monitoring very closely, but we need to be successful in Canada with real products.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Doc, let's shift back to the United or divided states of America when it comes to regulations. But
Yeah.
what is the situation regarding US rights for Sproutly specifically?
Right now, all of the US activity is centered on industrial hemp
Mhm.
because of the state by state problem.
Yeah.
And that's why, and then again, focusing, that's where the focus comes in. Focusing on industrial hemp allowed us to work with Kalo, again, a partnership, who launched this beverage in the midst of the pandemic. And it's, according to the owners of Kalo, it's rapidly coming out to the top 2 or 3 hemp beverages in the entire nation.
Wow.
Now, can we do that with THC? Absolutely not, because every state is different,
Yeah.
right? So What we have done, we have skincare products with industrial hemp. We have fresh juice products that have been launched, but these are now on the market in Pennsylvania through a partnership.
Yeah.
Same stupid extract that went into Kellogg is in here, right? So what we have done again is we're using US industrial hemp to prove what our extracts can do and what it might not be able to do. We've now launched one of the first CBG rich hemp gummies in Pennsylvania. And we just did a launch schedule, and obviously we didn't make enough. Every single jar that we sent to this group was gone in the first 3 hours.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So we are absolutely not focusing on THC other than research and development type work. How do we optimize the processing? How do we optimize the formulation? What flavor goes with whom? All of that is being done. But the focus in US is to enable products using the technology. We have babbled about the technology long enough. Time to have products. We have products, Kalo, the fresh juice, gummies, right? And we literally, the beauty of the system is what we do in the US, we can transfer precise standard operating procedure protocols up to Toronto to simply repeat, maybe have a drop more of passion fruit flavor versus 2 drops less mango flavor.
Yeah.
But it's rapid. We can turn around the potential product formulations in less than 2 weeks.
So in this market though, do you guys really have any true water soluble competitors?
The problem is, again, I don't mean to be arrogant or critical. The level of sophisticated science in this industry is lacking. And again, we as Americans should take the blame for that. In 1971, we made this plant, this whole field, federally illegal, and a whole bunch of countries got convinced by that. So real science hasn't been done. No, there are without a question water dispersible and miscible preparations. The fact of the matter is, when you extract out the oil, and that's why I have a little schematic here. So when you look at other people's process, the first thing that everybody does is extract out the oil free of everything else that's in the plant. So if I did that to you or me as a human being, all of our cholesterol will come out as oil. On the other hand, when you go to the doctor, they take your blood. What do they look for these days? HDL, LDL ratio. Those are not free oil. Those are naturally water-soluble oil. So what we did is pretty much said, if this is going back 2.5 years ago, if the plant had the lookalikes of cholesterol, HDL, LDL for cannabinoids and terpenes, how would you get them out? Question number one. That then would tell us whether it's there or not. A bigger question was, how much would there be? And I always wanted to stay focused on the whole plant, because it go back into the history, even back during 1970s, where cancer patients are the biggest consumers of cannabis smoking. There was no 28% THC cannabis back then. Everything was 5 or 6. But different strains did different effects. Somehow we all seem to have forgotten all of that, because over the last 40 years, the sort of underground industry could only focus on extracting oil. Oh, gee, let's get people high. And all this industry has done in the legal arena so far is to take that stupid oil, try to clean it up, then get to individual cannabinoid that people can pronounce, and then formulate that to put it back in water. This is like putting toothpaste back in the tube after you pushed it out. Makes no sense. Ask what Mother Nature gave us. So that was the beauty of the process, and we have stuck to the whole concept of whole plant. Water, oil. Water soluble, the water extract has everything that was in a water solution in the plant. Oil has everything that was free oil in the plant. So if I did that to me, if I drained out all my blood, all the water-soluble cholesterol will be in the plasma.
Mhm.
All the free oil cholesterol would be in my wonderful tummy and all over my tissues.
Yeah.
So that's what we have done. So can there be other forms of water-soluble molecule? Absolutely, yes. But the one that people talk about, emulsion, nanoemulsion, all those formulations, those are not water-soluble. I don't care what who says.
Yeah.
And if you look
Makes sense.
at issued or patent application, or you cannot make up science, nobody claims water-soluble because it can't. Whereas ours are actually naturally water-soluble. And so that is the biggest difference. I can take these isolated oils, I can chemically modify them in my lab in a test tube and make them water soluble, but then that's no longer what is in the plant.
Yeah. That's an interesting perspective. So other companies are kind of like they're kind of almost trying to go backwards with it. Would be a fair
At
way to
least
say it.
that's what it seems like to me.
Yeah.
Why would you pull something out? Think of a cannabis bud. What is it? Very gently handled, dried down flower that still has 10, 12, 15% moisture. So
Mhm.
whatever was in a water solution in the plant now is in the form of a syrup, right? All we have to do is tease that syrup out into water what they were to start with. Now, if we had been unlucky and there was no naturally water soluble cannabinoid, unlike the cholesterol, then yeah, we wouldn't have gotten anything. But the fact of the matter is, we now have whole plant oils, whole plant water soluble, and it's not just water soluble, it's whole plant. You cannot be creating the experience of the cannabis by taking out one molecule and claiming, oh, it does everything. That's one
Yeah.
psychoactive molecule out of 1,000+ compounds. And the fear that I have, this kind of obsession with single molecules, this is what happened to ephedra.
Yeah. Yeah.
Marsham was and it still is a very good Ayurvedic herb. We got all excited about, oh, we now know exactly what the active compound is, and that's ephedra. It got banned in 2004 by the FDA, not because they wanted to. People were dying because it
Yeah.
became way too popular. I fear about that with single molecules because when you're putting them in consumer products, you don't have the time, opportunity, or the money to test what it does. Think of CBD. People would like to claim it's absolutely safe and does wonderful things. Guess what? GW Pharma showed that CBD has kidney toxicity. What in Lord's name makes us think that the CBD or distill or whatever we pull out of hemp plants don't have toxicity, side effects, never tested, right? So we have 2 points, one whole plant, one water soluble and oil. Each is whole plant because we simply do not know who does what.
That makes sense, Doc. And I think this last question, I think we could wrap it up with this next one. And guys, thank you again for the questions. And we'll dive into more as it goes on. Give us feedback on this first video. We'll very happily answer whatever you guys got for us. But I think this one was the most interesting because people were asking if Sproutly's planning on utilizing their social media platforms to have a greater impact on attracting new investors and keeping investors up to date. So with this one, I thought was interesting because that's largely what we're doing here.
Right. I just going to say, didn't mean to interrupt you. Isn't that what we're doing here?
Yeah, so a lot of people, we had gotten some feedback on that first video, and it's like, hey guys, what we're just kind of doing is starting the story, right? For brand new eyes, people coming on, we want to show you that, hey, this is the story of Sproutly, and we want people's feedback on it. So we do appreciate the feedback, and we'll knock out as many of these videos as we can. But Doc, do you have any other guidance for people on what we plan on rolling out social media wise for you?
Well, I just wanted to quickly show you things that we have done. Here are 2-ounce shots. Here are 10-ounce finished RTD. And back behind we have gummies out the wazoo. So, and it really is, this is a typical Michael, who is our manufacturing director, does not give me much to play with. I have a half a liter of this hemp extract. You put it in the water, and here you go. You don't have to do anything else. No winterization, no this, no that. So formulations are finished, gummies are done, beverages are done, 12 shots are done. As I said, Sproutly is in a unique position over the next few months or weeks. We will start bringing out products. And the nice thing is, if the initial launches are successful, we can build on that very, very, very quickly. And that's going to have to be the success story, as opposed to launching 19 things and watch it dwindle down. We want to grow. We don't want to create a massive launch and then squeeze back and say, oh, whoops, that didn't work. No.
Yeah, no, I mean, fair enough. I mean, it's important to kind of focus on something, and you guys do have a unique approach to the cannabis market, going with the whole plant, going with the truly water soluble thing there. So everybody, thank you so much for the questions. Have some patience. We'll knock out another one of these Q&A videos soon. Doc, do you have any parting words for people?
No, you said it. Have some patience. Slow and steady wins the race. It's been true for centuries.
All right, Doc. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And again, everybody, thank you for the questions. We'll answer some more of your guys' questions soon. But first, give us some feedback on this video. Let us know if you liked the format of it, or if you have any changes in mind, and we'll happily work with you guys as much as we can. But for now, Doc, have a wonderful day.
Thank you too, Mike.